So we're here with David Jennings from the Irish Racing Post to talk about Sunday's Munster National at Limerick. David, hello.
Hi, Kat.
How are you?
I'm great.
David, Sunday is Munster National at Limerick. Are you going to be on duty with the Racing Post?
No, I have a rare day off. I'm in Fairyhouse on Saturday, so luckily enough the boss has given me Sunday off, so I'm sure I'll be watching both the Curragh and Limerick, so it's actually a big enough day's racing, so it's great to be at home for it.
Excellent. Yeah, no, same here. I've actually got a rare day off as well, so I'm looking forward to that. David, just before we go on to talk about the race, I believe that there's been an increase in prize money, so we're actually up to €100,000. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. The winner gets 60,000. It's I suppose it's a good kind of price tag to have. It's a very interesting race, and I suppose at the start of the season gives trainers a nice incentive as a starting point for a lot of horses. And horses, I find the Munster National is the type of a race where horses that could progress to be graded chasers, and they start off in a handicap, and they're not giving anything away because it's early in the season. If they're good enough and they can win it, they can step up the graded company, and if they're not, so be it. They can go down the Tri-Town route, the Paddy Power route. So it's a really interesting race.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you there. And David, just before we start to assess a few Limerick characteristics, for sort of viewers in the UK who wouldn't be that familiar with the characteristics of the course, can you sort of help us out with any of that?
I suppose, I don't know if in England if you get to see it, but people are probably most synonymous with Limerick would be the Christmas meeting, really, where you see absolutely desperate ground, bottomless conditions. You wouldn't put a child through the conditions, so you wouldn't know that. That's usually what we see. But on Sunday, it's going to be completely different because it's going to be pretty quick ground. It's good at the minute. Okay. The weather forecast is really good as well. So you're going to have probably quickish ground, and when it's quick in Limerick it tends to be very quick, and when it's slow it tends to be unbelievably slow. There doesn't seem to be an in-between at all, so we're going to have pretty quick ground, which is unfortunate for a few of the leading fancies in the Munster National who would prefer a bit of a cut in the ground. But the track itself is pretty flat. There's no excuses really. You have two fences in the home straight, you have plenty of time to get organised. It's one of them tracks where you have very few hard luck stories because there's plenty of space in which to manoeuvre. There's no real tight turns. It's a good jumping track. They have nice straight fences, and yeah, it's a track I'd be pretty happy with. It's been a lucky enough track for me over the years, and there isn't too many of them.
No, you're right there. Okay, so David, Desi Hughes won this last year with Ras Murray. He runs Wise Oscar here, who was something of a gamble in the Kerry National last time out.
Yeah, I suppose it's probably forgotten now after what happened, I suppose, with White Star Line, who appeared to be certainly not the first string. Wise Oscar was all the rage. It's hard to believe there was 18 runners that day, and he went off 4-1 favourite. Yeah. Finished 7th, bet 15.5 lengths. He's a type of a horse, he's a grinder. He just tends to kind of get outpaced at crucial stages in the race, and, you know, it was the same story in the Kerry National. He just couldn't really... Yeah. He just couldn't really get into it at a crucial stage. So in that case, he was a little bit disappointing. He's probably going to be backed again. JP McManus obviously is a huge hand in this. So it's hard to know kind of which one of his Tony McCoy is on shot from the hip. I wouldn't particularly fancy him now, to be honest. But he certainly is a strong hand. And I see Paddy Power, I think, are going 6-4 that JP McManus trains to winner the race. So I think that's an interesting probably bet that some people might have.
He's got five in, hasn't he?
He does indeed, yeah, and I suppose you can make cases for them all. They've all got pretty decent chances. So if somebody did want to kind of spread their cards out a little bit, I suppose 6-4 for him to own the winner might be a nice price.
Well, I do already know your selection for this race, but we'll come on to him in a little while. Just to go back to last year, obviously questions answered, finished third. He finished second in the Kerry National last year as well, finished fourth in the Kerry National this year, returns for another crack at the Munster National for Outmark Namara. Would you give him any chance at all?
Yeah, you know, he's been a kind of, I suppose, a little bit of an unlucky horse. He probably, you know, connections are probably thinking they could have won several big pots, and he's just gone close. He's hit the crossbar on a couple of occasions, and he just tends to find one or two too good. He looks to have a decent enough chance, and like you see his rating there, 132. You know, it's not huge for a horse that has done what he's done. And I think last year in the race, I think he ran off 130, so he's only £2 higher. Yeah. And you know, I think he started joint favour for the race last year, so he might be a little bit of a forgotten horse. He's not a flashy horse, you know. He doesn't have. I suppose Eric McNamara is not a flashy trainer, and questions answered is not a flashy horse, but he tends to get the job done. And you know, I'd say he'll attract plenty of each way support, as will so many in the race.
Excellent. And I think there's a very interesting contender in Tomtas Novotini. I've had this horse in my notebook for a while. He sort of had two eye-catching runs at Kilbeggan and Wexford. in beginners' chases, and the unseated rider at Galway. He's won both of his starts since then. What do you make of him?
Yeah, I suppose it's interesting. He's a novice, and he hasn't had that much experience over fences. I know he unseated rider at Galway in a race won by Golden Wonder, but he's been quite good the last twice. At Ballinrobe, 2 starts back, he was favoured that day, but his task was made a lot easier. Daroon fell in front of the stands that day. Then the last day, I thought he got a cracking ride from Paul Town, and they went very quick that day, and he just let them get on with it, and then he kind of snuck his way into contention. But he's a type of horse that does like these big fields.
Yeah.
If you see his best runs over hurdles, I remember him winning a hurdle race, handicap hurdle at Gorham Park early on last season, and he cut his way through the pack. I think he was last with a circuit to race, and he just loves passing horses.
Yeah, he does.
That's the type of horse you want in a race like this. So he certainly is interesting. But for a novice, a mark of 130, I don't know. I think it'll be a big ask for him.
Yeah, that is my concern. But I actually, he first really sort of came to my attention as you've picked up there. He won a race in Gorham Park last autumn, and then he came over to Cheltenham and ran in the Temps qualifier, and he kind of did exactly the same there. Was out the back, and then sort of fairly flew up the hill really to fill a place. But I know you've been busy writing your stable tour for Noel Meade, which is it going in the paper this weekend?
It is. It's on Tuesday. Our first is a pull-out on Tuesday, so that should make for interesting reading, hopefully.
Okay, well, Noel was responsible for the 2011 winner, Mulehead, and obviously he was third in the Kerry National last time out. He's also got Tom Horn and a reserve, Fisher Bridge. Of the three, I'm kind of would sway towards Tom Horn more. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I'd say I was talking to him literally about 20 minutes ago, and was talking through it, and I was making the point that Tom Horn was the talking horse, the well-handicapped horse, the horse that's surely better than 130, the plot job. I was making all these points to him, and he seemed pretty genuine in saying to me that he thought 130 was pretty steep for a novice. He said to me, he's only won an ordinary beginner's chase, beaten an ordinary horse in Stone Master, and he's rated 130. He said he's ready to run. He said he's been ready to run for quite some time. He thinks he has a chance, but he seemed to give the other few just as big a chance. And I thought the one, from talking to him, I thought the one he was most interested in was obviously Mulehead. He's won the race before. He's a type of a horse, Mulehead. When he is good, he looks really, really good, and it's just all about his jumping, really. I thought he ran it. I couldn't believe it. I wouldn't have taken 100 to 1 for him to lead over the first fence in the Kerry National. And what did he do? Only lead over the first fence.
Yeah, I must admit that surprised me. Yeah. Yeah, no, it was. I think that surprised a lot of people. I certainly saw a lot of comments on Twitter at the time saying, "What, Mulehead's leading?"
Yeah, so, and it's funny. He wasn't stopping at the end. He was keeping on again, and he. Obviously, the ground is going to be better at Limerick than it was at Listowel, and he said the better the ground, the better chance he has. And he said it was interesting if Fisher Bridge got in. He's absolutely praying for Fisher Bridge to get in, because he thinks he's really well. Of his horses, he thinks he's the best handicap, but he probably won't get in. Okay,
David, we're going to move on to your selection, which I believe is Gift of the Gab, which obviously you have in abundance.
Well, I don't know about that. I think there's a bit more substance to Gift of the Gab. The thing about Gift of the Gab, I was so keen on this horse for so long, and all I wanted was a small bit of rain. That's all I wanted. I would have been hugely, hugely fancying his chances. If there was any bit of rain, just looking through his form, he's been taken out for different reasons, veterinary advice and that, when the ground has been pretty quick. So that's a little bit of a worry. But hopefully, it's not giving much rain, but hopefully they might get a few drops that will allow him to run. I just think his best performance was at Limerick in a beginner's chase when he beat the Engineer by 17 lengths. That was a phenomenal performance. He went over to Plumpton after that, which was his place to go, and was second to Invictus. And even over hurdles, he's ran quite well at Limerick. He likes these flat tracks where basically you can get into a jumping rhythm. And I just thought if he was the one beaten horse I took out of the race in the Kerry National. Talking to Tony beforehand, he said that he would have loved to got a run into him before that race to have him spot on, and he just wasn't quite spot on for that race. And I think that will have blown away the cobwebs. It's obviously 3 miles is a little bit of a worry stamina-wise, but his jumping is so good that he will take lengths out of the rest of the field. And I just think he's the potential grade 1/grade, maybe not a grade 1 horse, but he's potentially a grade 2 horse. And I know they think very highly of him in Manalby and Tony Martin's yard. And I just think he's a class horse in the race. 138, I think he could prove that to be pretty lenient. But as I said, the ground is a big worry.
Okay, just to wrap up on the Munster National, we have got a few other things to talk about. So obviously you've got 3 reserves as normal. You've got 16 safety limit. Of the 3 reserves, which are, because I couldn't see, Black Benny and Fisher Bridge, do you think out of those 3 Fisher Bridge would have the most chance?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, definitely. Fisher Bridge showed as well being on the flat at Down Royal last time, and he's a horse that, if you remember the race a couple of years ago against Golden Kite in 2010, if you stop the tape at the last, you say, how far does Fisher Bridge win by? But he just couldn't get by. He travelled super during the race. Noel thinks he's got him as good now as he ever has had him. So it would be interesting if he got in. But you need 3 to get out. The ground is not going to deteriorate too much. It looks like he's not going to get in. Okay,
so if I had to get you to nail your colours for the Masters, we record this on Friday evening, David, what would you go for?
Obviously, my number 1 pick would be Gifted a Gab, but because I'm worried about the ground, I'd probably just about go for Spring Healed of Jim Colotti's Barry Garrity's riding. Didn't run. I wasn't impressed with his run at all at Listowel the last time, but I'm willing to forgive a horse one run, especially at Listowel, because the track the horse can just run desperate at. And I know that Jim thought if he got into the Kerry National that he might win it. So I thought a mark of 135. Again, it's not exactly thrown in, but I thought he was the most interesting apart from Gift to the Gap.
Okay, I'm going to take that chance with Heaney. That would be my selection as we stand now. I just want to touch quickly on the Price Waterhouse Cooper's Chase, the Grade 3 event at Limerick. Obviously, we've got Beneficent, the Jewson winner, lining up. Ran in a QR race in, was it Listowel last time out?
Sorry, what was that, Catherine?
Beneficent.
Yeah, he's an interesting horse, obviously. He ran in that qualified riders race. And if you look back at it, actually, it was a pretty encouraging reappearance and just blew up, I'd say, and got a second win then late on. This looks a real nice opportunity. I'd say Tony Martin seen the entries and couldn't believe his lucky stars, because he's running against Tofino Bay, who needs further, who needs soft ground, and the rest of them, I think I'd beat the rest of them. So I would say that Beneficent will probably win. It's interesting that Brian Cooper doesn't ride. I thought that would be his ride. Ruby Walsh rides. So I don't know if there's something there that maybe it's not his ride anymore. But I thought that was the most interesting point on the Beneficent issue.
Okay, excellent. I agree with you there with Beneficent. Right, I wanted to ask you about the Limerick Charity Race Day on Monday, which is in aid of JT McNamara and John Joe Bright. Am I right in saying that all proceeds go to the fund?
It is indeed, yes. It's a real great initiative, so it is. And there's a serious buzz about it over here at the minute, so there is. There's, everything, there's different initiatives. There's owners have all paid. I think they've paid maybe, I don't know what the exact figure is at the minute. It's definitely a good few thousand. Everybody that pays in, you've got an auction. I think there's One Direction tickets on sale. I'm sure you'll be over for that, Catherine. They've got really, it's a real good initiative. Every single thing, and when people see these causes, they tend to give. I think it's a tenner in. I wouldn't be surprised if people were giving extra paying in. It's that type of goodwill gesture that I think they're hoping for. And it's. I think the SAS are paying their fund for the day is going towards the fund. I think the bookies' pitches are going towards the fund. So basically, everything that you have to pay for at the race meeting is not actually going to the meeting. It's going to the fund, which is terrific, really.
Absolutely, yeah. And I do just want to give out the website for that, which is www.limerickcharityraceday.ie. That is www.limerickcharityraceday.ie. And all of us here at Bet Racing Nation obviously wish JT McNamara and John Joe Bright all the best in their continuing rehabilitation. David, before you go, you're at Fairyhouse tomorrow. Is there anything on the card there that's taking your eye?
Yeah, I suppose there's a couple. It's not a particularly fascinating card, but the horse that we talked about last week from Noel Meade, a horse called Apache Stronghold, runs in the maiden hurdle. He'll be very short, but I'd imagine he'll win in the bridle. There's a couple. The horse I like is Fantasy King in the handicap hurdle. I thought he got a super ride from Andrew McNamara, who had kid gloves on when he rode him at Navan. Needs to be held up, but I think the big field 110. I thought he'd get at least 115 or 16 for his first handicap, and I could see him cutting through the pack, turning for home. And Fancy King for Andrew McNamara and Charles O'Brien would be the one for me at Fairyhouse.
Brilliant. David, thanks ever so much for joining us. You've been fantastic as usual. And, David, I've got it right now, Slango Foil.
Very good, Catherine. You've been practicing.
Yeah, of course I have. Thanks, David. We'll talk to you soon.
That's a great initiative, isn't it, Catherine? The Limerick meeting on Monday.
Oh, it's fantastic. All the proceeds go to the John Joe Bryan, JT McNamara charity. Yeah, it's wonderful.